What does Aliyah Boston really think about Caitlin Clark? And if you actually read between the lines of her newest comments, what does that reveal about Sheryl Swoopes, the most vocal and consistent critic in the Caitlin Clark debate? In her recent appearance on Sue Bird's Bird's Eye View podcast, Boston opened up in a way that felt refreshingly unfiltered. She talked about everything, from her first impressions of Caitlin back in their college days, to what it's been like sharing the court with her in Indiana, and how their chemistry has developed over time. She even touched on how she handled things during Caitlin Clark's injury absence, along with a few behind-the-scenes locker room moments that added even more depth to the conversation. So now the real question is, are you excited to see Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston back on the floor together? If you are, drop A, B, and CC in the comments below.
Do you think, looking back on that season, so last season, was one of the biggest misconceptions of the Indiana Fever? Like, maybe it was like locker room stuff. I feel like early on,
oh my gosh, there was so much locker room talk. Oh my gosh, her body language, she was not happy. She hates.
And don't forget the kind of comments Sheryl Swoopes has been making about Caitlin Clark lately.
People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be. Aliyah Boston's interview ended up landing like the most composed answer possible to all the surrounding noise. No emotional outbursts, no over-the-top speech, just a steady, grounded perspective that quietly undercut a lot of the chatter, including Sheryl Swoopes' ongoing anti-Caitlin Clark narrative. When Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana, few people had a more unique viewpoint than Boston. She wasn't just watching Clark from the outside like a media storyline. She had already faced her on one of the biggest stages in college basketball, in a game that's still hard to forget. Boston made it clear that moment never really left her memory. When someone drops 40 points on your team in a Final Four matchup, that kind of performance stays with you. So when that same player suddenly becomes your teammate, that's not your typical first day at work situation. It changes everything from the ground up.
That year, I was like, I forgot, we were like doing something with somebody. I was like, Hannah, I just want to say, I'm like really upset that you like did what you did in that Final Four game. I was like, I feel like I just need to get it off my chest because like we are teammates, but I'm like, you didn't have to do all that. Like you did not have to go for 40 on our dome. Like, girl, we could have just had fun. But after that, it was like cool because obviously now we're on the same team, so you don't worry about that. But I always thought it was funny because I'm like, we just went from competing against each other, you beating us, and now we're on the same team. It's like, I was like, girl, it's okay, I get it. I'm not mad at you for real, but I am. Because like, why would you do?
What makes Boston's version of the story stand out is how naturally she tells it. Instead of framing it like some awkward rivalry or dragging old tension into the present, she keeps it real, light, and almost humorous in a grounded way. The way she reflects on that experience says a lot about her mindset. She didn't cling to the past matchup or treat it like emotional baggage. She simply shifted from competitor to teammate in a way that feels mature, straightforward, and refreshingly authentic. And the respect between her and Caitlin Clark didn't take long to show up either. Once they actually started sharing the floor in Indiana, that chemistry didn't just appear, it continued to grow and solidify with every game.
Girl,
you did the thing, made the joke, moved on. That's really what it is.
And then you kind of just move on. You're like, listen, we're on the same team now, so let's whoop some butt. Let's do it.
100%.
As the season progressed, it became increasingly difficult to overlook how seamless their partnership looked on the floor. When Boston explained what actually makes it click, she didn't lean on generic talk about effort or just having fun. She went deeper than that. She pointed to the details that actually matter: trust, rhythm, instincts, and an unspoken understanding of spacing and timing, knowing when to cut, when to dive to the rim, when to seal a defender, and when the ball is coming without needing to call for it. That's the difference. That's what turns a solid duo into a real problem for defenses that have to account for every single possession.
You guys do complement each other. And I hear you that it takes time, but like, what do you think it is about each of your games that works well? Like, mostly in the pick and roll. We'll talk pick and roll.
I think honestly, one, like Caitlin, the attention she gets, right? Like teams are like up. Like if they're under and dropped, that shot's going up. because I'm gonna set a good screen, that shot's going up and she's getting it. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm gonna step up. And she's just a phenomenal passer. Like her angles, like she knows exactly.
And when you actually break down what she's describing, it tells you a lot about both of them. Caitlin Clark's court vision is elite. Aliyah Boston's positioning and instincts are just as sharp in their own way. Put that together and you get two players who are starting to read each other in real time, almost like the game slows down and everything becomes automatic. One of the most revealing parts of the interview was Boston mentioning that she watches Caitlin's eyes to anticipate what's coming next. That's not luck or random timing. That's elite basketball IQ connecting with elite basketball IQ. And relationships like that don't tend to fade or reset. They usually evolve. And in most cases, they only become more dangerous for everyone else on the floor.
The way she sees the floor, I think, is great. And then for me, it's always like, I'm always going to get in her pocket because I know that she's looking to pass that ball and she wants to get us in the best position. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm looking at your eyes. So once I see your eyes, I'm there. You don't have to say anything, I'm going.
Of course, when Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana, it was never simply about adding a highly skilled rookie to the roster. Her arrival immediately shifted the spotlight onto the entire team almost overnight. Suddenly, every single possession was being analyzed in detail, as if the Fever were under a constant spotlight. The pressure didn't just rise, it spiked. Boston described just how overwhelming those early weeks felt. A new system, new pace, new expectations, and very little patience from the outside looking in. Instead of being given time to develop chemistry like a typical young team, they were treated as if they were already a finished product, expected to have everything working perfectly from day one.
The quote-unquote Caitlin Clark effect is definitely real. I think we all feel it in our unique ways.
No, 100%.
Yeah. How did you experience it? Like, I know early on you talked about logging off social media. Like, what did you just learn in that period of time? And by the way, the social media aspect is not Caitlin's fault.
No.
So it's like, but what did you learn just like in that period of time?
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves Caitlin. They love watching Caitlin. Yeah. And so I think that just brings so much eyes. And I think for our league, that's great. Like, that is great for us. You have so many people coming in, they're watching. Like I always say, like, they might come in for Caitlin and they leave and they're like, dang, this girl's a hooper too.
Yeah.
Oh, I like her. Like,
you're seeing it
hear
in
so many people say it. You hear, like, everyone says it, and I think you just kind of embrace that.
And the media atmosphere around everything only intensified the situation. Every missed connection turned into a headline. Every awkward possession was suddenly treated as evidence of a deeper problem. Even people online were breaking down facial expressions and body language like they were analyzing playoff film. For Boston, it quickly became draining. She already holds herself to a high standard internally, so the added outside pressure didn't help anything. The last thing she needed was strangers turning her chemistry with a teammate into some overanalyzed internet storyline while the season was still unfolding. So she made the most sensible choice she could. She tuned out the noise and focused back on basketball.
A lot of it too can be people that are trolling. A lot of people that are talking. But for me, it's like, I am someone that already puts so much pressure on myself. And so for you to come in and tell me like, dang, you're like the worst person I've ever seen in my life. It's like, you know what? Hear me out. I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
You can stay.
What stands out most is that Aliyah Boston never directed any of that frustration toward Caitlin Clark. If anything, she did the opposite. She acknowledged Clark's impact, how she's elevated attention on the league, drawn massive interest, and managed a spotlight that would overwhelm most players. Boston's real pushback wasn't against Caitlin, but against the unrealistic idea that two young stars are supposed to instantly develop perfect chemistry just because fans expect it. That's not how basketball works, and it's definitely not how trust is built. Chemistry takes time, repetition, and real minutes together. And now that they've actually had that time, the improvement is obvious every time they share the floor. Then came the online noise again, or more accurately, the version of drama that mostly exists on the internet.
Hey, there's a lot of play more. What kind of things do you feel?
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay.
But I'm talking about more social media.
Okay.
It's a turn. Right?
It's a turn, right? It's really a turn of the tides.
Well,
right?
Gil, here's my point. The beginning of the year, right? Everybody's
almost overnight, the conversation shifted into whispers about so-called locker room problems. Suddenly, there were rumors floating around about poor chemistry, silent treatments, personality clashes. Basically, every recycled storyline people can invent when there's nothing concrete to point to. Fans and even parts of the media started acting like they had uncovered some hidden truth, like they'd solved a puzzle no one on the team even knew existed. Meanwhile, Aliyah Boston was basically finding out the internet had written an entire drama series about her team without anyone inside the locker room signing off on it. Her response couldn't have been more grounded. She looked at all the noise, laughed it off with her teammates, and summed it up in the simplest way possible. Y'all good. And honestly, that kind of reaction says more than any rumor ever could.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, there was so much locker room talk, and
everybody I talked to were like, we vibe, we're good.
I was like, what are we talking about? Like, it's so easy for people to just make all these assumptions. Some people are like, oh my gosh, her body language, she was not happy. She hates this entire squad. I don't know. Sometimes when you have a bad game personally, that takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
It's 100%. Not that you don't like the team. It's not you, but that takes a toll on you. Every single night we come out, we want to play good. And so like all the time there were locker room talks. I forgot what was the conversation one time. I woke up from my nap, getting ready to go to pregame. People are like, oh, they hate each other. They hate each other. We walked in the locker room. We're like, girl, you good?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just woke up. I couldn't tell you what's happening right now, but all I know is we about to hoop. At 7 p.m., we gotta get.
Boston made it clear that all those outside stories were exactly what they looked like. Just narratives, noise dressed up as analysis, fiction with a Wi-Fi connection. Inside Indiana, the reality was far simpler and far more solid. The group was united, locked in, and fully focused on winning basketball games. For the Fever, it wasn't just about protecting the idea of a locker room, it was about protecting each other. And while people outside kept spinning theories and building imaginary drama, the players stayed focused on something real, developing chemistry where it actually counts. On the court, one possession at a time.
I hate when people get into this whole talking about what they think our locker room is like and what they think. I'm like, first of all, you're not in here.
No.
So you have no idea. And also, we're professionals. So if we want you to see something, you'll happily see it. If we don't, I guarantee you, you would never know there's a single problem. Why? Because that's none of your business, and we have more priorities.
So for all the internet detectives, amateur lip readers, and couch analysts who were convinced they'd uncovered some hidden truth about Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston, this interview delivered a pretty blunt reality check. Because what's actually forming in Indiana isn't dysfunction, resentment, or some secret locker room fallout. It's a real partnership taking shape. And if the rest of the league is paying attention, that development should be a lot more concerning than any manufactured storyline online. The Fever's return to the 2024 playoffs may have been short-lived, but for Aliyah Boston, it still carried real weight. Looking back at their series against Connecticut, there's a mix of pride and frustration in how she talks about it. Because Indiana wasn't as far off as the results suggested. Game 1 slipped away. Game 2 was right there for the taking. From Boston's perspective, the gap wasn't talent, it was experience. Connecticut had veterans who understood playoff intensity, who knew when to push, when to settle, and how to close out games under pressure. And that became the lesson she walked away with.
Learn from it.
It's like, we say it all the time in our season now, like margin of error is so small, but when you're going up against a squad that has vets that have been in playoffs, that have won, it's like they know exactly what to do.
Did you feel a jump in
there was a jump in intensity and energy.
Isn't
like,
it crazy?
It's insane. Like the very first game when we played against Connecticut, like it was close, and then they kind of just they took it and they ran with it. And then the second game, it was like we were right there. Like we were right there. And then I feel like
that kind of experience changes a team's mindset. Getting to the playoffs is one thing. Walking away from it knowing you were just a step away from something more and didn't fully get to show it is something else entirely. For Boston, that feeling didn't turn into comfort or excuses. It turned into motivation, something she carried forward rather than left behind.
Because honestly, I think if we had brought it back to Indy, we were gonna get it. No, we were, because we had just beat them at home. So it's still one of those that's like, dang, if we could have just gotten to that third game, I think we really would have came out and just went bananas. But I think it was a great experience for us. And obviously, like this year now too, we're like, listen, playoff run, like we need that. You feel it now. You're like, I need more.
The mindset in Indiana has shifted completely. There's no more underdog label, no more trying to catch teams off guard or quietly exceed expectations. With the new offseason pieces, a refreshed coaching direction, and Caitlin Clark as the focal point when she's healthy, the Fever aren't being overlooked anymore. They're being expected to win. That expectation brings pressure, but it also brings meaning and direction. Now every team circles Indiana on the schedule, fully aware of what they're building. And Boston sounds like someone who doesn't shy away from that reality. She leans into it. This group isn't trying to surprise the league anymore. They're trying to meet the standard that's now been set for them.
It's a lot of change.
Yes.
You have a coaching change.
Yep.
You have it's a big free agency year for you guys. And really overnight, what that big free agency year was, or big change was expectations change.
Yes.
So you guys went from like this up and coming, where it's like you're getting to know each other, to now it's like, oh, they could win the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the experience of essentially becoming like, instead of being the hunter, you're now the hunted?
Yeah, it's crazy, but I feel like it was definitely.
Of course, the 2025 season didn't play out the way Indiana had envisioned. The expectations were high from the start, and then injuries disrupted everything, most notably the setback to Caitlin Clark. For a young team still trying to fully define itself, losing a key player like that could have easily thrown everything off course. But according to Aliyah Boston, that's not how this group responded. There was no panic, no collapse in confidence. From day one, the mindset stayed steady and simple. Next player up.
Added in Caitlin, right? And everybody's like, oh, like they're gonna be this, and this. And now everybody's like, oh, you know what? We're gonna prove you wrong. Like, hell no. Like, that's how it is. And then this year too, obviously we go in the free agency and everybody's like, yeah, like they got, for us, we always think like you have to approach every season with like, we're winning this whole season. So that was our mindset. And I think when you look at expectations, once again, expectations come from everyone outside. Cause like in our circle, we know exactly what we want to do. We also understand that it's a process. We understand that new faces, new coaches, like different style play for people joining us. It's like people need time to figure it out once again. But when you do figure it out, it's going.
That wasn't just a catchy phrase. It became their way of getting through the season. Injuries happen in the WNBA, but excuses don't stick around for long. It doesn't matter who you are in the rotation, starter, or bench piece. The standard never really changes. Stay ready, step up, and contribute when your name is called. Boston emphasized that this mindset has played a major role in keeping the Fever competitive, even as the roster kept shifting throughout the year.
It's definitely been a struggle, but I think just at the start of the season too, like, you know, you have your start of the season meetings and you're talking. And for us, it was about, listen, like no matter what happens in the season, it's next woman up. And you have to be ready. And I feel like obviously struggling with injuries, and then, you know, you sign people and then they leave, and it's like, listen, like whoever's next, be ready to play, because it doesn't matter. Like the games still keep coming. Like you still have to be ready.
You still have to be ready to go, because losing Caitlin Clark isn't just a simple lineup change. It shifts the entire rhythm of the game. Aliyah Boston explained how different everything feels depending on whether Clark is on the court or not, and it really highlights just how big her impact is. When Clark is playing, the pace jumps immediately. The ball moves faster, possessions come quicker, and defenses are forced to stretch further and react sooner than they want to. Boston put it in the simplest terms possible. When Caitlin's out there, you better be prepared to run.
Specific to Caitlin being on the floor, off the floor. And I saw you talk on your own podcast about like the spacing and how different it is. But when you're entering a game, like your mental prep, how does it change? Because it's two different systems.
Without Caitlin Clark on the floor, Indiana is forced to shift into a completely different rhythm. The tempo drops, possessions slow down, and the offense becomes more structured, built around half-court execution and multiple reads instead of quick bursts. Aliyah Boston didn't treat that as a setback. Instead, she described it as a necessary adjustment the team had to grow into. In her eyes, it's not about one style being superior to the other. It's just a different way of playing the game. And learning how to operate in both systems has ultimately made the Fever more adaptable, more resilient, and harder to predict.
Honestly, like when C is on the floor, I'm like, listen, be ready to run. Be ready to get out. Be ready because she's looking. She's looking. Going. She wants to play fast. Super early in the offense, and like we do that too as well here. But I think sometimes too now without her, like we can get into like a little more half court execution, make the defenses work a little bit harder. First side, second side, third side, and then I think when you have like Kelsey, when Kelsey's playing in transition, get that ball up to her and make her
I've never seen anybody so bouncy.
Like she is unbelievable.
And
then when
what
you
is in
put
those
her
shoes?
In screens, it's like, what do you do?
Bouncing all over.
She is moving. She's making the right read. And it's like, listen, and she's scoring the ball at a very high level.
There's also the emotional layer that comes with it. Boston acknowledged that it's never easy watching a teammate go down, especially someone as competitive and as central to the group as Caitlin Clark. Moments like that hit differently in a locker room. At the same time, time, there's a steady confidence that Clark will return. That belief gives the team something to hold on to. Because of that, every game they fight through carries extra weight now. Every scrappy win, every messy stretch, every in-game adjustment, it all matters more than it might seem in the moment. And over time, those experiences stack up, helping the Fever become more prepared for when the roster is back at full strength again.
When she's on the floor, like, she's looking to get up, people can be like, listen, I don't need to outlet because I know once we rebound, we're getting it up. But I also think it, once again, it's like puts people on their toes because they're like, whoa, I need to find Kelsey in transition. I need to find Ari now. Like, we got to find Sophie and Lexi knocking down threes. Like, it's different, but I think everyone is once again finding their own rhythm, and that we just did a great job of like putting it all together.
Even though 2025 has been anything but smooth for Indiana, the Fever have managed to turn all that adversity into something meaningful. They're learning how to adjust on the fly, trust one another more deeply, and find ways to win even when nothing feels polished. And that's often how real contenders are formed. Because when this team eventually gets back to full strength, all of this chaos might not look like bad luck. It could look like the foundation they were forced to build under pressure. On paper, the injuries should have derailed everything. Instead, they've kept competing, kept grinding, kept showing up, and right in the middle of it all has been Aliyah Boston. Exactly what Stephanie White described her as: the rock, steady, tough, reliable, and the kind of presence that keeps a team grounded when everything around it is unstable. That's really the story underneath everything here. Boston hasn't just dealt with the pressure, the injuries, or the constant outside noise surrounding Caitlin Clark, including critics like Sheryl Swoopes. She's grown through it. Alongside Clark and the rest of the Fever, she's helped turn doubt into motivation and setbacks into something that defines their identity in a positive way. Indiana isn't just a feel-good storyline anymore. They're legitimate, they're dangerous, and they still feel like a team that hasn't even reached its final form. Are you excited to see Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston back on the floor together? Drop a B and CC in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.